Maybe one of the greatest things about the internet is how much it's leveled the playing field. I mean, we've created a world where anyone with an idea can go out there and tell a story, and the whole world is watching. Yeah. Sometimes, despite all of our hard work, it feels like success is something that happens to other people. You know, whether they earn it or not. It feels like very few of us admit to these low moments in our creative lives, you know, when it feels like we're making art and nobody cares. But we really need to talk about it because it affects almost all of us, and it's ended countless creative careers before they've even begun. Who wants to make art in the dark? Did you know that in Brazil they have these amazing fireflies, big and luminous, crossing and recrossing the night? And not that long ago, women would catch them and, being ever so careful not to kill them, pierce each one with a pin. And then they would fasten them onto their hair and onto their clothes. Living diamonds in the dark. Look, the usual advice for artists is easy to find. Stop making it in the dark. You've got to tweet harder and Facebook faster. Spread the word. But what you're about to see isn't the usual advice. Because this advice comes from one of the least successful artists ever. In a small town in the south of France, he lives and works in obscurity, where, after a long day of working alone, he walks home alone. The locals even cross the street to avoid him. He lives by himself in a small house on the edge of town, in a tiny room he can barely afford, with just a few small possessions. An artist who, in the 9th year of his career, is yet to sell a single painting. Now, I know he's one of the classic examples of the struggling artist cliché, but there's a mystery to Vincent van Gogh, because he's been painting for nearly a decade without an audience. And that's amazing, because I tell you what, over the last 9 years, he's had plenty of chances to pack it all in. One of the first things you have to know about Vincent van Gogh is that he started very late. He was 27 before he picked up a pencil seriously. And let's just say his first attempts weren't exactly encouraging. He knew nothing about anatomy or perspective. His only support came from his younger brother Theo, and we know so much about Vincent's life thanks to the hundreds of letters they wrote to each other. Vincent finds a mentor here who introduces him to oil paints, but any new hope is short-lived. His mentor's completely unimpressed by his work and kicks him out. And now money's becoming a big problem. Theo was sending 100 francs every month, but it barely covered the cost of his paints. Vincent's diet and his health were the first to suffer. So many of his letters now are just about how hungry he is. With the help of a perspective device, his pictures are definitely improving, but then the money runs out again, and at the grand age of 30, Vincent is forced to move back in with Mum and Dad, who, by the way, think he's wasting his life. Vincent's new landscape matches his prospects. He'd been doing this for 3 years now with absolutely no success, and the pressure to give it all up is growing. But instead, he's now working twice as hard, furiously trying to learn how to paint faces. Look at him, just practicing over and over on his own. I don't know, maybe it's ambition that's driving him forward. We know from his letters he dreamed of producing something to match his idols, the renowned Eugène Delacroix and Jules Breton. But you don't need me to tell you that the gap between our idols and ourselves is often painfully large. Another long winter passes through. In the bitter frost, Vincent is hard at work preparing what he always considered to be his first masterpiece. He called it The Potato Eaters. His brother called it, okay, and that was that. Now, just to take stock here, at the age of 31, Vincent is still living in poverty. His teeth are falling out because of his poor diet, The few possessions he does have need a serious upgrade. And he was beginning to face new torments. And through all of this, he's painting for an audience of just one, his brother. Whatever it is that you do, imagine the result of your hard work only ever being seen by a single person and then forgotten. I mean, would you even bother? And this is what's so incredible about this guy. Not only does he keep going, but he's so prolific. We're talking nearly 1,000 oil paintings produced in his short lifetime. He knows something we don't. Alright, so it's time to introduce a word that perhaps you've never heard of before. In 1990, the Hungarian psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi published a groundbreaking book, Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. Now, hidden in the book is the word autotelic. It's a combination of two Greek words, auto meaning self, and telos meaning goal. As the professor explains, it refers to a self-contained activity, one that is not done with the expectation of future benefit, but simply because the doing itself is the reward. When the experience is autotelic, the person is paying attention to the activity for its own sake. When it is not, the attention is focused on its consequences. Now, Vincent had probably never heard the word autotelic, but it's pretty obvious that he lived and worked by the idea, because in 1886, after arriving here, Vincent discovers colour. His letters to Theo become full of detailed notes on colour theory, hues, tones, shades, lights and darks. To express the love of two lovers by the marriage of two complementary colours, their blending in their contrast, the mysterious vibrations of related tones, to express hope by some star, someone's passion by the radiance of the setting sun. Of course Vincent never gave up, he was having too much fun. Yes, his life is hard, but he's solving problems he finds fascinating. Vincent's long, steady focus on technique finally pays off. In February of 1890, at the age of 36, he receives a letter from his brother with good news. After 10 long years, he sold a painting. Now, you think there'd be celebration here, vindication. But no. What Vincent does next is as humble as it is remarkable. He gets back to work. And in a letter to Theo, he put it like this. You know, there are fireflies in Brazil that are so luminous that in the evening ladies stick them into their hair with pins. It's very fine fame, but see, it is to the artist what the hairpin is to those insects. You wish to succeed and shine, do you really know what you want? Now, it's important we don't end up romanticising all the difficulties Van Gogh faced. They were real, and in his last years, his internal battles became more violent and more devastating. But even the extremes of Vincent's struggles were tolerable to him, because he loved what he did. Look for them, and you find the autotelic artist everywhere. People who know that it's not up to them to decide whether their next thing is going to be popular or successful. People who know it's only up to them to do their work. You can't control the external outcomes of what you do, so why even think about them? Except, of course, that we've created a world where those external outcomes are valued more than anything else. And that's our challenge today. In a world obsessed with popularity, will we do our work regardless of the consequences? Will we still make our art, even if nobody's watching? Hello everyone, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. I know it's been a long time coming. I think it's nearly 2 years now since part 2 in the series was released, so thank you for your patience. This is also the first essay that has been made with the support of some very wonderful and generous people on patreon.com. I'm really excited about it because I think directly supporting artists that you like is the most sustainable future for people like me. So if you like these video essays, if you'd like to see more of them, you want to be more involved in the process, then please check out my Patreon page. The address is on the bottom of the screen here. And you might also have noticed in the credits, there was a whole group of people who beta tested the first draft of this film. They got to see it before anyone else and provide feedback. It worked out really well, and that was through Patreon as well. So if you'd like to do that for the next video, just head over and pledge your support. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.